Hey, thanks. All right, hi there. My name is MaKenzie Johnson. I'm a high school counselor up in Hermantown, Minnesota, which is right on the tip of Lake Superior in a city called Duluth. Hopefully, many of you have been there. It's a beautiful place to come and spend some time. I like hiking all of the trails in Duluth and spending a lot of time outside at beaches. I've traveled all over the United States, and I'm just always amazed at the beauty of Lake Superior. And not everybody gets that opportunity to be so close to the lake. So I'm thankful to be here tonight. We're going to talk about school counselors as key advocates for equity and access in computing. This is something that's really important to me as coming off of this week with the trial of Derek Chauvin. We've had another unfortunate incident in Minneapolis over the last week. And as educators, we know that there is an issue in Minnesota with access and equity. And I really want to drive home today. My hope and goal is that at the end of this, you may have a conversation with your school counselor in your district to talk about how they can come alongside the work you're doing in computing. Because as I'll show you today, there's a lot of parallels between what we do as school counselors and what we're doing in our STEM or CS programs. So thanks for having me here today. I was going to do a Menti poll, but I think we're going to skip over that and just kind of jump right in. So I work for a company called Counselors for Computing. I do some consultation there. And Counselors for Computing is basically a really rad group of school counselors that come together and do professional development for other school counselors, because our main goal is to increase women, students of color, and students with disabilities into the computer science field. And we are part of the bigger company, NCWIT, which is the National Center for Women Information Technology. It's a nonprofit. It's funded by things like Google and Apple. And it was founded in 2004 from the NSF. And our big goal there is to increase women in this field. And that's just really where it all started. And then they realized shortly after this start of NCWIT that school counselors play a really big role in registration, in talking to students and giving students exposure to careers. And so that's kind of where we come in. And I wish my computer science friend Mike was here, because he would kind of talk about how great it is for him to have another ally in computer science, because in many of our schools, we might be the silo, the one and only computer science teacher or STEM teacher, and that can be a lonely job. And so our goal is to increase our collaboration and our connectivity so that you can have more kids in your enrollment can go up and more students are getting out into the computing field, because we'll talk a little bit today about how important that is for our economy. So why school counselors are critical allies in this work? You'll notice on this visual here, we really have a lot of connections to different stakeholders. So, we work with students and families, but we're also working with administration and school board. We have those military liaisons. A lot of computing jobs are available in military. We're also talking to community members and making those connections. And then we are uniquely positioned to work individually with students when we're doing career planning or talking about, ASVAB or ACT. And then really, we'll talk about it in a minute too. Our job is really to remove systemic barriers and to help students who are underserved or underrepresented in our schools. And I think sometimes we get missed in that, how much of a role that we might play in that work. You might think of school counselors as the person that talks to the kid who's anxious, or when kids fail classes in summer school, or scheduling. Our real passion as school counselors is to do some of this systemic work. So we have a really good place in this space with you with computer science. So the next thing I want to just briefly touch on, because sometimes we do these presentations and not everyone in the room knows exactly what computer science is. So computer science is posing a problem and trying to find a solution using a computer and using technology. And this young woman here in this visual is actually a computer scientist, and her job is to take old paintings and restore them. And so she uses this computer and is able to look at what it used to look like and recreate these paintings so that it's not lost as the paintings continue to get older. And we're designing the solution based on the problem. So one way that I do this as a school counselor, there was that age old question of what do you want to be when you grow up? And I really changed my perspective. And now I ask students, what problem do you want to solve? If we can focus on something that they're passionate about, we know as counselors that their career is going to be much more fulfilling if there's passion driving it, not necessarily, how much money I'm going to make, or I know that job because my parent does it. So we really switch that question now to what problem do you want to solve? And our students blow my mind all the time when I ask that question. So computer science, again, is solving a problem using technology or a computer. So this is a video that I want to quickly show you. It's about a 5-minute video, and it really talks about how computer science is in every area of our lives. And after this last year of the pandemic, we're all much more aware of that. But this really hones in on all of the different categories that we're seeing innovation in computer science. So as you watch this video, I want you to think about 2 things. The first is I want you to think about, what do you think stands out the most to your students? What surprises them or engages them? Which of these categories? And then second of all, I want you to think about, which of these categories do you think is most engaging or innovative for adults, people like us? So we're going to go ahead and watch this and keep those 2 things in mind.
I think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines. And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, and all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things, so programming as well as fashion and art and design and shopping. Half the products you use these days are software products that you play with on maybe your phone. And so if you want to build something cool, you need to know programming, right? And there's so many things that you can do with computer science. So if you just work backwards from the cool thing that you want to build and figure out what that is, a lot of times computer programming is part of that, right? So you should learn the skill.
It's really exciting right now. The technology that we're developing right now is going to be used by your doctor in the next decade. When you come into the office and you're sick, and the doctor is going to be like, all right, spit in this cup. And I will put it into this magic machine, which is a sequencer. And in an hour, I can tell you what you have or what's wrong with you. So if we're looking for a new virus, for example, we'll download a database of all the viruses that are known. And we'll search for, our sequence of interest against a whole database of all viruses. So you still need somebody to analyze the data. The computer is not smart enough yet.
Our software helps people save energy and thereby reduce their carbon emissions. To date, we've saved over 8 terawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 1.1 million cars on the road.
When you're forecasting the wind, there's so many different parameters that go into it. It would be impossible for a human to sit down and do all those calculations. We need a computer model in order to forecast it.
I write software which scans images, looking for bad images that we know are illegal. I work very closely with organizations like the National Center for Missing Children. I know that the work that we've done has impacted the life of people. And I feel very strongly about it because there's a lot of social problems right now that could really leverage the use of technology. It's a lot about empowering the people who are there helping the world by giving them the tools to be able to do better. That's something that we can do right now, and the tools available are huge.
The merging of art and technology is getting more and more significant now because computers and software are such an integral part of our lives day to day. People are realizing that it can be quite creative to take this medium of computers and create incredible works of art.
In Finding Nemo, when Crush and Squirt and all the friends are flying through the East Australian Current, you're seeing images of water flowing by, you're seeing the colors on the back of the turtle, you're seeing the sides of the fish. All of those things are generated through math and computer programs that we write, that we then give to the artists, and they take that to create that final image and tweak it and make it look beautiful and look fun.
The crux of it is really about invention. It's about looking at the world and being dissatisfied with things and questioning everything.
I always felt like if I didn't learn how to program, it would be like not learning how to read. You know, the future would just be closed to me.
If you're in the coding profession, there's so many things that you can do, and you can pretty much pick and choose the course you want to be in.
I think that you can start something in your college dorm room, and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
Really, it's about the chance to reinvent things and then see it out there in the world and see people using it and having fun or having a better life because of something that wasn't there before that you put in the world.
All right. Ooh, let me get my video back here. Okay. So, as you watch that video, I'm wondering, what are the two things that A, you think your students stand out for, and B, what stands out for you? And when we ask students that question, it's always the lettuce spot. There's something about that lettuce spot that makes them so excited to think about where their food comes from and that it's a robot and it's able to understand what the food means. And sometimes as an adult, I watch that and I think, oh, aren't they excited about Finding Nemo or about like Polyvore with fashion? But you have to remember that our students grew up with all of those things being normal. They grew up with Finding Nemo and knowing that that's just out there. That's something that's already been invented. But the lettuce spot is something new and innovative they may have not seen before. And when we think about ourselves and what most stands out to us, it's always the medicine. When we talk to other adults and we show this video, we do these trainings, people always come back with the medicine, especially after the spit tests in COVID over the last year, right? Who would have thought we would have been lined up in auditoriums all over the United States spitting into cups to see if we test positive for COVID or not. So that's just a really great video if you need to kind of a starting point to how do I talk to my students about what computer science is. As a school counselor, I use that video as a recruitment tool when I'm highlighting our computer science class to say, here's kind of what computer science is. And it breaks down a lot of those perceptions or beliefs that a computer scientist has to be a white nerdy guy with glasses behind a computer, and that it's not a woman or somebody that maybe isn't great at math and science. Like that's not what computer science is anymore. So I love that video. Steal it, use it in your own practice. Next, I want to talk a little bit about why school counselors. I mentioned that in the beginning. How do school counselors and computer science teachers or STEM teachers align along the same sort of standards? And one thing that I want to point out is our ASCA, which is our American School Counseling Association. We have mindsets and behavior standards. So just like in the classroom that you have standards that you reach, we have standards that we try to focus on in our individual sessions, in groups, or in the classroom. And that those set of standards that we try to teach students, along with computational thinking skills, and then just having students that know how to problem solve, these are essential skills for all students and all people in the 21st century. And when you look at that little bubble, the bubbles at the bottom there, like, don't you want to work with people like that have computational thinking skills? They can be creative problem solvers, and they're emotionally intelligent. Like, those are the sorts of people that companies are looking for. And I'm going to show you a graph about that in a minute here. So what is computational thinking? I'm assuming most of you that are watching this already know computational thinking. I should have grabbed my book. I read a great book by Jane Krause about what computational thinking is and what computer science is. It was a great, like, informational first read for me, because this is not my background. And computational thinking is comprised of these 5 areas. And you'll notice that at the bottom in kind of the tan, those are the standards that we have as school counselors and how they directly relate to computational thinking. So I do debugging with students all day long. I just had a student in my office today. He had a conflict with his parent. He was nervous to go home because he was afraid that that conflict was going to kind of heighten and heighten and heighten, and he was going to end up, being asked to leave his house because things have been tense there. And so we used debugging, like, we reflected on what worked well and what we might need to do differently next time. So I said to him, and I use pattern recognition too, like, has there been a time before where you and your mom have gotten into this heated argument, and what worked well or what didn't work well? And let's kind of like let's refine your plan going home today. So what we do in our office is the same thing that you're doing in your classrooms. And that's where computer science and counselors can really be in alignment. So I hope you get a chance to look at that, or to talk to a school counselor about it. Okay, so I'm going back a little bit here, back to those purple bubbles. The World Economic Forum said in 2022, these are the list of skills that they want emerging employees to have. So like we talked about, emotional intelligence, complex problem solving, analytical thinking, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. These are all skills that school counselors and computational thinking teachers like CS or STEM can teach our students, so that we are really giving them the skills they need to survive. I think it was Chris Bosch in the video that we just watched said, I took coding because I felt like that was the only way to the future. And that other young woman said, if I didn't know how to code, it was like not knowing the language. And we really need to instill that in students, that coding is really a language of the future. And whether or not you decide to go into computer science, it's a skill that you are going to need in the 21st century moving forward. And again, as school counselors, it is our ethical obligation and duty to prepare students to go out into the workforce, especially in my job as a high school counselor. We're much more focused on careers, but my K-4 counselor and my 5-8 counselor are doing the same work that I'm doing. They're exposing students in career fairs. They're bringing in people to talk to their students about different opportunities. And we're even talking about computer science in our own districts, in our own buildings, who's using computer science just for everyday educational purposes. So this is kind of this is the money maker slide. This is the one that if you take nothing else away from our time together, I want you to take this slide. If you're not a school counselor, you'll just take a screenshot of it. But if you are not a school counselor, take a picture of this slide and bring it to your school counselor or to your admin or to whoever you're working with on implementing more computer science. And I want you, we've got these next 3 slides that are really important here. Why expanding access matters to us. Like, why does computer science matter to me, a northern Minnesota girl who's a school counselor? It matters to me because it matters to the economy and the community in which I live. So if you look at this graph, these are new wages. So not all wages, new wages in America. And this is based off every industry in every state. If you notice in the graph, the biggest percentage is in computing. So the most growth is in computing. Now, when we look at that, and there's a little growth in education, of course, healthcare is going to grow. Management, I think, is the second one there. So there's a big need for management. But when we look at the second slide, we know that there are a lot of people going into STEM, but only 10% of STEM graduates are computer science majors. And out of all of those new jobs in STEM, 67% of them are in computing. Okay, so let's think about that for a minute. So we've got all these students who are pushing towards STEM, but only 10% of them are going into computing, but 67% are where the jobs are. So we really want to define what computer science is for students instead of just saying STEM is great, go into STEM, you'll get a job. Yes, you're more likely to get a job, but are you getting the right job? Are you fully prepared to make that decision? I'm going to skip that one for right now. So, okay, here's the second slide that I would take a screenshot of. So the first one was the new jobs. The second one was computing jobs. And now this one is the degree and job growth. So this data is a bit old. It's from 2017. We're excited to see our next update with data. I'm going to walk you through this graph kind of slowly because I think it's a lot to take in and I want you to just take a moment to soak it in. So you'll notice that it's breaking our degrees into 2, 4, and PhD, so 6 and beyond years. It's also breaking it down between men and women. So we're going to look at some disparities between men and women in careers. And then it's also looking at annual jobs from 2016 to 26. So there's a lot of information. So I'm going to start with like an anecdotal story. So on the bottom right-hand side of your corner, you're going to see social sciences. So we're going to use me as the guinea pig for this conversation. I loved psychology. I love people. I love connection. I like problem solving. So I went into psychology because that's what I knew. That was what was presented to me when I was in high school. You should go into psychology because you like people. So I went to the University of Minnesota Twin Cities, and I would have been considered in that teal graph one of the women listed there, right? So we've got quite a large group of people going to get degrees in social sciences. And then if you look at the tiny teal or bright grass green, citrus green, look at how many jobs are open for all of those kids in school, right? So this was me after I graduate with my undergrad, cannot find a job. I certainly cannot find a job that pays the loans that I owe to the U of M after going there for 3.5 years. So this is where part of our economic gap starts, is that we send students to college and then they go into programs that they can't get jobs in. So that's one thing to consider when we're talking to students about what do you want to go into. And when we think about our students of color or students of disabilities or female students, like they're especially prone to not being able to get the job that they want to get to be able to break some of the cycles of underrepresentation in careers that they're looking for. So then let's kind of hop over to the other side of the graph. In my high school, there's a lot of push towards engineering right now. Like kids they're interested in science, so they automatically think engineering. There's money there. Sorry if you can hear my washer and dryer in the background. So if you go to the left-hand side and looking at engineering, let's first look at how many people are in the 4-year degree category, right? So you got about 115,000 people in the United States. The men to women there's a big disparity there. There's a lot more men going into engineering because there's this idea that girls aren't as good as math and science, which is incorrect. But then if we go ahead and we look at the job openings, well, that looks pretty good, doesn't it? The job openings is not much higher, slightly higher than the students. So that means they're going to have competitive offers. They could probably live anywhere in the United States and get a good job in engineering. And they're going to be able to pay back that student loan, which in turn is going to help all of us and our economy. Now let's go to computer science, because this is what gets me really excited. If you look at the number of students that are enrolled in that 4-year degree, it's about, maybe 60,000, 65,000 students, a huge disparity in men between women. So that's why we're really trying to engage more women in computer science. But then look at the job growth. It actually goes off the chart to 350,000 job openings a year. That's a big deal. That has made me think many times, maybe I should go back to school to be a computer scientist. And the job growth is because of all of the tech and innovation happening. And I also want to mention, look at that associate's degree. Look at how few students are in a 2-year program. I am right by a college here called Lake Superior College, right up the road from me. Sorry, that washer is loud. And I can go get a 2-year degree for about $12,000 in cybersecurity and make more than I will ever make as a master's level, top of the scale educator. Like coming out of college, students in cybersecurity are making up to 6 figures, if not more. They're getting contracts with Department of Defense. They're getting their loans paid back. They're getting housing and moving stipends. So it doesn't have to be either just your 4-year college bound students. There's a lot of opportunity in that 2-year program. So normally I would pause and we would have a lot of conversation about this. So if you are with someone or want to pause it and take a minute to kind of look at this, I highly encourage you to do this. This was the slide that when I saw this presentation for the first time, I thought, I felt a lot of guilt of being a school counselor and not knowing this information. And then I really dug into it. And the more I've dug into it, the more excited I get about it. And I really think about, for me, I live in northern Minnesota, and the whole northeast part of our state here is suffering from the mining loss that we've had here. So we've got a lot of families that are living in poverty, have lost jobs, then COVID hit. And there's a great YouTube video. It's called Bit Source, and it's all about the Appalachian Mountains and how they had kind of a similar thing happen with the mines closing down. And then there was all of these computer science people that came in and taught the miners the skills that they needed to be CS, to be cybersecurity, to be tech support, and how that really turned that economy around. And I can't help but think, if we could somehow find computer science and turn that into our economy here and really like take hold of all of the job openings, what that would do for all of us in our community, especially our underrepresented students. Oh man, my slides just getting a little wild on me here. Okay, so we're not going to do the pop quiz because we're not here in person. And this just goes back to that ethical standard. And I'm just going to take a minute to read this because I think it's really important. So this is a part of my American School Counseling Ethical Standard. So school counselors are advocates, leaders, collaborators, and consultants who create systemic change by providing equitable education access. School counselors demonstrate their belief that all students have the ability to learn by advocating for an education system that provides optimal learning environments for all students. So school counselors, we are social justice advocates, and we support students from all backgrounds and circumstances. And when I think about that, when I stop and really pause, I think how much of my time is spent really advocating for systemic change and giving optimal learning environments for all students. Isn't that what we're doing all day long, right? That's the work, that's the grind, that's what we're trying to accomplish every day, whether it's 504 plans or, one-on-one skill building or counseling. Like this just goes back to kind of the heart of the work we do as school counselors, and it really aligns greatly with that. So just a few facts here. Boys receive much more encouragement than girls from teachers, parents, and media when it comes to computer science. And we know that if we're in CS or we're in education, we know that girls are told you're not as good at math or science. It's always the boys. And in our movies and in our media, they see that more. And so it's really important for us as educators to expose them. I love this little picture of this girl in the Wonder Woman outfit here. In my school district next year, we're going to do a 3rd and 4th grade career fair. And we're going to have families, community members, all sorts of people come to our elementary school. And we're not going to really hype it as a computer science fair. What we're going to do is we're going to bring all these different industries, and we're going to show the thread of how computer science is in all of these different industries. And just that simple exposure to a student helps them see themselves as, hey, maybe I could do that. Or else the only thing our students are exposed to likely are their family, like what their familial people in their family, excuse me, I had a brain loss for a second, people in their family do for work, or maybe what media they're consuming, or maybe they know a teacher or a nurse or a doctor because they see those people. But if they've never seen a network specialist, or they've never seen like a cybersecurity data analyzer, they don't know that those jobs exist. So it's really important work for us. If we want to increase our enrollment in computer science, it's making it engaging for students and letting them know they have a space at the table, like there's a place for them. And this is a quote from Sweet Nikita, and she talks about how her school counselor had noticed that she was taking all these different classes and um, how all of that kind of built together to be able to understand that maybe computer science might be a major for her. So there's all different paths to get into computer science. It doesn't have to just be a linear one. And I love that quote from her. So we're running out of time. We have about 10 minutes left. Normally we would be doing some Q&A, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some resources. So the first resource, if you want to go to this little link here, or you can scan the QR code on the top left, this is a bunch of resources that are free and open to you. You can go ahead and click that link and you'll be able to print any of these, look at any of these. If you have a school counselor that you're talking to, I'm hoping at the end of this, you're going to say, I might talk to my school counselor about that. This might be a good link for them. If nothing else, the conversation with the school counselor could be simple as, hey, I know you're doing registration for next year. I'm wondering if there's any way we can highlight my computer science class. I'm wondering if there's any way we can do some recruitment strategies to get more females in our computer science class. We just finished registration, and I'm happy to report that 1/3 of our students registered for our computer science class, computer science principles, are female students. And in the past few years, it's been like maybe 1 or 2, and now we're up to 1/3 of our entire class that's females, which is really exciting because I think that my collaboration with my computer science teacher and having these conversations has helped kind of just emphasize why it's important. So there's lots of things your counselor can do for you to help support you in this allyship. And there's even some resources in this link that talks about allyship between CS teachers and counselors. And then the other thing I wanted to mention, this is a really cool opportunity, something else C4C is doing. We're offering these advising for future ready careers in this monthly series. So it's free, open to you. The first 150 people, I think, get a $25 Amazon gift card. Department of Defense is a big supporter for us, and they always want to try to honor people's time and energy by doing gift cards or something like that. This is a great opportunity also for school counselors. So if you're not a school counselor, but you think, oh, my school counselor might really want to know more about this whole career thing that you're talking about, MaKenzie, and what careers are open, this would be a great opportunity for them. They can sign up now, and I think it's going to go for a few more months. Again, there's a QR code or a link. And then this is Wendy Chi. She is, I think I'm supposed to play this, so we'll play it and she'll tell you who she is.
Hi everyone, I'm Wendy Chi, and I'm the C4C evaluator. I'm here to ask you to take a survey about your experiences in the program, which I just emailed to your inboxes. This survey is really important to us because it helps us improve on future programs. Hi everyone.
Okay, so Wendy is our, because we're grant funded and funded through other places, it's important for us to get surveys on what's working and not working. So I know you're not here with me now, but if you're watching this later, if you could fill out this survey, it's really quick and simple. It will maybe take 2 or 3 minutes. And then at the end of it, if you put your email address and your mailing address in, we will send you this whole supply kit you'll see down below. So you'll get a virtual reality headset. You'll get all of the free resources I mentioned in the previous slide, but you'll get actual hard copies of them. There's some great posters. I have this stuff just kind of thrown all out throughout my office, and I pull it out whenever I talk to students. So that's something that was really important for us if you get the opportunity to fill out the survey. And then we can let you know if there's more C4C opportunities in Minnesota, or if you want to connect in some way and do further trainings. And I will make sure that I get my email sent out or updated on the STEM Forward site. So if you have questions or you just kind of want to talk about what's happening in your school or how you want to collaborate, or maybe you're a school counselor and you want to collaborate with me, I love to talk about this stuff. I geek out on it. So that's all for tonight. I really thank you for watching this, and I hope to see you soon. All right, that's it.